friends.
Got it.
New friends and old friends. My goodness, such a pleasure to be with you. Thank you, Judy. My goodness, I've known Judy and the founders, Jerry and Bill, for the past, what, 2 decades now?
At least, yeah.
Yeah, at least. And so let's carry on with what's going on here today. It's just a pleasure to be here. Okay, let's see here. Eco-healing, deep ecology is a profound spiritual practice. Let's explore what that's all about. For those of you who don't know who I am, Connie Grauds, Judy introduced me so well, so now you know that I'm the science and the spirit person. My first trip to the Amazon rainforest was 29 years ago. It was a pharmacy continuing education trip. I thought I would never be back, but lo and behold, it captured my spirit, my heart, my soul. And this has been going on for the past 29 years. I took this picture outside of from the plane, looking outside of my window right there. So I want to invite you to the wisdom of the Amazon rainforest and deep ecology as a profound spiritual practice. When we think of the word ecology, the basis for our talk this afternoon is that this is the relationship of things in our environment to each other. The environment itself are kind of nouns. There's trees, there's rivers, there's birds, there's plants. Ecology is a different word than environment. It's a relational word about relationship. As we get started here, and speaking of relationships, here is an absolute bottom line truth. We know that shamans are healers of the sick, right? Okay. But they are also keepers of the forest. Think about that. They have to keep the forest healthy for the medicinal plants. They have to keep the forest healthy for the proper food for the sick people and so for the community so they don't get sick. So it's on and on. It's not only, shamanism itself is not only a healing art, but it is also about relational, speaking of ecology, being the keeper of the forest. Look at those gorgeous 6 feet wide, gigantic Amazon water lilies, huh? Oh, it's just incredible. Now, eco-healing is a contemporary term. It's a term that I use these days in place of the word shamanism, most often here. I keep shamanism as the venerable, ancient, respected term. So not wanting to get involved with cultural appropriation, but cultural appreciation. Eco-healing is the same thing as shamanism. It's a more contemporary term that I use. So out of deep respect, and the lessons that I've learned in 29 years of the jungle, what did I learn? Deep ecology is a profound spiritual practice. We're going to learn why here shortly. Aren't these macaws incredible? No wonder the chiefs put their colorful feathers into their crowns, huh? So I'm the science and spirit lady, as Judy said, and we're going to be talking about the medicine of nature and the magic of nature. So ecology is about the relationship to nature, and we're going to explore both the medicine and the magic of what nature has to offer. And as we sink into this talk here this afternoon, let's just consider how often we use nature words in our speaking, how green consciousness is just a part of who we are naturally. You've said some of these phrases yourself and heard others say them. We grow like weeds in childhood. We blossom as we mature, and we go to seed as we age, huh? New ideas are planted into our minds where they germinate, take root, flower, and wither, right? That's the way we talk, everyday language. And what we're doing here is reminding ourselves how deeply wired to nature we naturally are. We leaf through books, we turn over new leaves of our behavior, we collect kernels of wisdom, and we follow decision trees. We get lost in the jungle of details, and sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees. Just think about it. It's already there. In my 26 years of apprenticeship, what did I learn? What did I become? It was the exposing of what's naturally in there anyway, just as we're exploring that for ourselves this afternoon as we take a talk. The heliconia grows in the Amazon like it does in Hawaii, just gorgeous, huh? Yeah. So we're thinking of relational. We're thinking of instinctive connection, biophilia. Philia means to be attracted to something, whereas phobia means a fear of something, right? Philia means we like it, bio, so we like bio. Biophilia is defined as the innate human instinct to connect with nature, which also includes, other living beings. And it's more than just a philosophy. Biophilic design supports cognitive function, physical health, psychological well-being. Can you imagine that what we're exploring here is our human instinct to connect more with nature supports our mind, our physical health, and psychological well-being? Wow. How profound is that as we begin to think of it? And I often think of these talks as a sermon. Let's think of it as our Sunday sermon, or let's think of it as our Tuesday afternoon sermon. These are things that this group already knows to be true, but we're re-exploring them together so we can deepen that relationship. We can deepen that relationship such as a Sunday sermon would do, to remind us of the importance of all of this, huh? We just even love looking at the pictures. That's how much we love nature. Ecological medicine. We just talked about how ecology and relationship to nature is what gives you better cognitive function, better health, so on and so forth. So why wouldn't it be a medicine, right? Why wouldn't nature be a medicine? And we can call it ecological medicine, healing in right relationship. Healing in right relationship. Improving health is inextricably linked to restoring ecological well-being. In other words, we already know that. In other words, we have clean rivers so that everybody can have access to clean water. We like to have clean air so that people's lungs are healthy, right? So the well-being of all of the ecology we live in, all of our environment, of course, is related to our human health. So the interconnectedness of all life is a fundamental biological truth. The reason we talk about it again and again is because so often our Western mind separates us. Humans are above nature. Humans control nature. So the idea of ecological medicine is in essence eco-healing, isn't it? We want to keep our nature clean so we stay healthy, right? So that relationship is innate. We want to do it. We gladly do it. And it's a reminder how it is part of our natural just instinct, but it also is good for our health as well. You know, we take a little bit of a look of history. You know, I've been a pharmacist for way too long, my goodness. Way back when I went to pharmacy school, it was only about allopathic medicine. That is to say, body parts. You go into the doc for a cough, he or she focuses on the lungs, right? Nothing else. Okay, you know, you have something going on in your heart, we just look at the heart, nothing else. Your knee, you know, we just look at the knee, nothing else. Our brain, same thing. Well, then lo and behold, 30, 35 years ago, the idea of holistic medicine came about. You know, this group knows that, oh my goodness, the incredible idea that the mind and the body are related, like duh, right? You know, being with the shaman Don Antonio, you know, when he looks at somebody as a patient, he doesn't see body parts. I remember one time, one woman he took a look at, and she was complaining of whatever her medical condition was at the time. And the first thing he said is, you need to quit your job. So before he treated the thing, it was, oh, the part that is wrong in your life, you need to quit your job. You know, so it's everything has to work together. So we used to have body parts allopathic medicine, you know, 35 or so years ago. We got the idea that, whoa, this could be connected, and it is connected. And so why not ecological medicine? Why not? Meaning right relationship with everything around you. If we need it for our health, we have to consider that, don't we? Wow, nature is stunning, huh? One of the first things the shaman Don Antonio told me, he said, Connie, I was following him with my pen and my notebook, you know, trying to take notes, and he said, put it down. The healing is in the sights and the sounds and the smells. And I'm going, no. It's much more technical than that. It must be hard and complicated. You know, I went to pharmacy school for all of these years to learn this. What do you mean healing is in the sights and the sounds and the smells? And of course, you know, it just, you know, took me a while to figure it all out, right? The healing is in the sights and the sounds and the smells. Ah, pretty wise, right? So as I showed up, you know, in my first day or two of apprenticeship with several notebooks and a couple of pens, and I said, Don Antonio, I'm a straight A student. You can, you know, when will I graduate from a shamanic apprenticeship? You know, I said, you know, you can double the course load. I'm really a quick learner. He slapped his knee. He pointed to the hammock and he said, you in the hammock for 3 days, and I don't want to hear a word from you. Just shut up. Just get into the hammock. What he was trying to say is the healing is in the sights and the sounds and the smells, not in the pen and the notebook. This isn't apprenticeship with the mind. What we're talking about today is apprenticeship with the heart and the spirit and the whole of you. After the 3 days were over, okay, I got my pen and pencil out. Okay, let's move this along. I don't know. He said, I have nothing to teach you. I want you to go out into the jungle and don't come back till the trees talk to you. Goodbye. See what they have to teach you. Bye. I went, what is this? You mean there aren't 10 principles, 12 ways, 5? You know, I was thinking of the Western way we organize our education. You know, just give it to me didactically. I didn't realize he was trying to change and expose, I should say, rather than change, expose the inner core of who I really truly was. And that's what we're doing here today too. How many of you heard of forest bathing? I mean, it's been out there for a long time. Yes, everybody has. So even in this short amount of what we've shared today in this talk, now we know that the science of forest bathing is now proving what the shaman knew to be true. Wow. And that's happening in a lot of areas of what we used to call ancient spiritual practices, whether it was India, Africa, the Amazon, wherever. It seemed like it was spiritual practice, and science said stay away, until folks like FMBR, so on and so forth, came around and said, wait a minute, let's look at what science there is. Let's look at the science and the spirit of things. Forest bathing, for those of you who don't know what it is, Dr. Lee of Asia, a physician, found that if you go out into the forest and just simply relate, just bathe, in other words, bathe in the essence of the forest, it boosts your immune system, increases your energy, decreases anxiety, depression, and anger, reduces stress, and brings about a state of relaxation. Science, medicine has shown that to be true. He has an institute now that continues those studies. So once again, ecological medicine. We heal in right relationship. Shamanic medicine, as the shaman said, just lie in the hammock for 3 days because the medicine is in the sights and the sounds and the smells. Look at that shaman be so smart. Because it's just simply true. He was always telling me, Don Antonio was always telling me, there is only one disease or dis-ease. The disease or dis-ease of disconnection. We're not eating right, we're not thinking right, we're not, I'm not talking about if you're in the middle of a car accident, we're not talking about that, but in general, good health. Okay. Dis-ease and disease. It's about disconnection. Ecological medicine is about connecting. Eco-healing is about being a keeper of the forest. In other words, the world around you. Think of how often you might feel depressed, anxious, all those things we talked about that forest bathing is shown to help relieve. After I apprenticed for several years and started my practice in Marin, I would take my clients on a walk through Muir Woods for their appointment. We'd walk through Muir Woods, and he or she would talk and tell me what's going on, and I go, sure. But the point of the matter is, why not get the boost of pretty darn big Mother Nature right there? Or if we didn't have time to go that far, I'd go out into the park, find a park bench. Let's just sit there. It's incredible. It's incredible. Even the World Health Organization, the WHO, we've heard a lot about them over these COVID years, when it was established in 1946, their preamble way back in 1946, when allopathic medicine was still saying it's only your heart, it's only your lungs, the WHO's definition of health in their preamble said, health is not merely the absence of disease or infirmity, it's the state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. We know that to be true, but do we act as if that's true? Do we act as if that's true? Those are the questions that we ask each time we listen to a sermon, right? Ego and eco, it's all about the connectivity. This is we talked about 5 minutes ago. We are not on the top of the pyramid. We're not. So the relational balance is what's important. Eco-healing, so then, is a reciprocal and synergistic relationship of nature by mutual exchange. Wow. If you grow a corn stalk, what happens? You get corn for dinner, don't you? If you grow a rose bush, you get beautiful roses to put on your table. If you grow medicinal plants, such as the shaman does, you have medicines for the village. So there's the natural instinct to want to care, whether the plant community gives us food, such as corn, gives us beauty, such as roses, gives us medicinal plants. In other words, the more we take care of it, the more it takes care of us. You know that to be true. And what we're trying to do is raise here our consciousness about it, so that when you're weeding your rose garden, you really understand and for a moment appreciate with gratitude the relationship. I take care of you and you make my life beautiful. Or thank you, corn plant, or thank you, grow rosemary and, put it in your turkey dinner, well, thank you. So this is asking you today to begin to reciprocate. Give some thanks and gratitude. We know it here. This group already knows this. But are you practicing? Are you consciously aware of your environment around you? So one of the original slides here, we said shamans were healers of the sick and keepers of the forest. But eco-healers, to just substitute a more modern term for shaman, are healers of the sick. They can be. In other words, if you want to hang out a shingle and be a healer one-on-one with somebody with an infirmity. And eco-healers are keepers of the forest. Keepers of the forest. It's interesting. When we go for a ride in our car, sometimes we're with family or friends, we're going down the road and we see, oh my goodness, there's a deer. Look at that deer in the forest there. Isn't that amazing? Do we ever say, oh, look at that big patch of rosemary. Isn't that amazing? Oh my gosh. Look, we just turned the corner and can you imagine, I know that we must see 500 pine trees. It would be amazing if you saw 500 wild turkeys. You'd comment on it, wouldn't you? But we don't steer our car around the corner and go, wow, 500 pine trees, 500 sequoias, 500, yeah. So what we're trying to do is raise our consciousness with all of nature. And especially here today, you can tell there's a bit of a focus on the plant kingdom because I think we just have a tendency to just, oh, it's there. It's green, gives us food, gives us beauty, so what? I mean, some of you are gardeners are into it, way more than all of that, but I'm just talking in general here. So the idea as we deepen our relationship knowingly with our mind, body, heart, and spirit, with thanks, gratitude, we are becoming the medicine the world needs, aren't we? What a profound statement to think about yourself. Become the medicine the world needs. Because you become more aware. Well, you think of it, the shamans, such as Antonio, he was saying, stay in the hammock for 3 days and then go out into the forest and don't come back till the trees talk to you. They're the ones that are going to teach you, not me. I have nothing to teach you. Nothing. No 6 principles, 10 ways, 14 must do's. No. So the point of the matter is that the teachers and the awareness and what he was trying to do and did over the years, is open my sensitivity. Where do you think shamans from all over the world get their healing powers? From a pill in a bottle? No. Where do they get it from? From everything around. Everything around a deeper relationship. Connie, over these 26 years, will take you repeatedly into deeper relationship. You know, we often take a workshop on, animal spirits and animal totems. We should have a workshop on plant spirits and plant totems, right? Yeah, it's the same thing. And that's in essence is what the apprenticeship was about, and deepening that until the relationship is one-on-one and it's reciprocal. It always is, but healing on that level. So what did the 26 years of shamanic apprenticeship, really teach me? Of course, it was nature. I show you this picture of a hand here. I'm just going to hold my hand because you could see me. About year number 3 of my apprenticeship, Antonio took me, the shaman, and took me deeper into the forest, and he sat me on a tree stump and he said, Connie, this is not working. I was horrified. Me, a pharmacist who always puts 100 pills in a bottle, does everything right, everything my mom always said, whatever my teacher said to do, everything you told me to do, Antonio, I've done. And he held out his hand just like that, bent at the elbow and his fingers. He said, you're looking here. You're looking at me with the notebooks and following some simple, dietary and life practice. You think that's the apprenticeship. He said, I'm trying to show you the sky, the birds, the stars, the universe. That's where the energy is. And it was such a shock to me to realize that I had to take the elevator up, I had to expand my consciousness. And that's what we're thinking about here today. How to expand your awareness and consciousness of all that's around you, whether they are your pets or the deer in the forest or the plants. How about your house plants? Or what you grow outside your back door, or the trees that you walk by when you take your morning walk, huh? Do you ever just look to them and thank them? The plant kingdom gives us wood to build our buildings, our homes. It gives us medicinal plants. It gives us food. Why wouldn't we begin to recognize it even more deeply? Now, I said deep ecology is an ultimate spiritual practice. What is spirituality? Any kind of spirituality, like I said, whether it's Indian or African or whatever, is seeking a meaningful connection to something greater than yourself, right? So you get out of the me. It's all about me. What can the rose do for me? What can the corn cob do for me? I'm growing this tree in my backyard because I need shade. Okay. So if we add a spiritual component to ecology and outdoors, it's asking that we make a more meaningful connection to that tree or all of the trees, to that piece of corn or all the food that feeds us, to that rose bush in our backyard, or to all the beautiful plants. So it's about deepening your awareness, gratitude, appreciation, and from time to time, we often talk to our plants, or we talk about the crazy old lady down the street who talks to her rose bushes. Well, you might ask your rose bush, anything you need from me? Anything, I'm listening, and of course you listen with your heart. And, so there's something else. And when when you walk through the trees, in your backyard or your daily walk, whatever that is, just throw it out there. Anything you need from me. You may get an answer now. You may get an answer, in a year. It's a lot like friends. Hey, when we meet up as friends over a cup of coffee, how are you? Then the question comes back, how are you? I'm fine. Oh, or I'm going through this right now. Tell me. Oh, I'm having trouble here with my job. The tree might say, I need more water, right? In other words, we're having this conversation. We're talking mostly about plants, but it also relates to animals. All of them are insects, all of nature around you, the water. Yeah. So start that dialogue. Just start asking, and then you deepen friendship. Have you ever noticed there's some friends you just meet once and you just say, hi, pleased to meet you. You never, run into them again. It's just the way life is. But then there are friends that you really want to get to know. So you get bold enough to say, would you come on a cup of coffee with me someday? With me to get a cuppa somewhere? Yeah, how about doing that to, just getting to know some plants and trees in your backyard or whatever appeals to you at the time, or the brook that's running down your neighborhood. What do you need? How are you? We call it the babbling brook. It must have something to say, right? And maybe it won't have anything to say right away, but like friends. Well, should we meet for another cup of coffee again? Oh, okay, I would like that. And then it deepens. Then you become part of somebody's life, a trusted friend. Same with the tree, the plant, in your house, in your backyard, whatever it is, the animals, the squirrels, whatever. And then, of course, some relationships with people get so intimate they end up getting married, right? Or moving in together or whatever. In other words, forming a life together. That's what happens in deep shamanism. The spirits of the plants and the animals get so deep that it's a lifelong marriage. And you're asked to do many things for them, just like you would to a dear friend in a marriage or bonded relationship, huh? So it makes intuitive sense. And the idea today is just making a personal commitment to begin to do this for yourself, because nature heals. What's the big secret? It's free, folks. Outside your back door, free. In other words, just like forest bathing showed, if you're anxious or depressed, what? Go sit in your backyard. Just go sit in your backyard. Go sit in your backyard. Yeah. In other words, well-being builds your immune system. You feel better. You can take a walk, certainly, but sometimes you don't have the time. Just sit in your backyard. I'm asking everyone here to make a commitment to nature, to be outside for 10 minutes a day if you can. Just sit, like the shaman said to me, just be there. We'll just make it short to begin with, 10 minutes. While you're not weeding, you're not doing anything, you're just not being in that busy mind, you just sit there. Or if you have more time, take your walk and just open, just deepen. I'm just here to absorb you and be part of you. Yeah, it's free. Medicine is free outside your back door. Sometimes we need stronger medicines, such as medicinal plants, or sometimes Western pharmaceuticals. Western medicine has certainly saved my life. But the point of the matter is, if we just start at what's in the back door, free. That's what the, I think sometimes if a workshop cost $2,500 and you had to write a paper for it, you'd think it was more serious than sitting outside your back door and it being free, wouldn't you? Come on. Yeah. And how to, I was continually amazed. how does this shaman, Antonio, who doesn't read or write, when he passed away, he was 86-ish years old. Yeah, how does he know this stuff? He didn't take the workshop. He doesn't have a library of 500 books where he can page through and get the answer, or I just took this workshop or just heard the speaker. No, it's all these same things we're talking about right here. This is exactly what it's all about. A profound spiritual practice where just going out your back door opens your heart and you want to laugh and weep and cry. It's that beautiful. Isn't it that beautiful when you're with a dear friend or your spouse or your mate or whatever? You want to laugh and weep and your heart just opens up. That should be happening. And so we can start just like Antonio did. We have to sit in a hammock for 3 days, but we could just devote in our busy lives 10 minutes a day. If the weather's bad, just sit inside, look out the window, same thing happens. Just see what happens. See what happens. You can lengthen it over time. It's just how it works that way. Now, the interesting thing, remember this is, kind of shamanic principle turned modern. Oh, ecological medicine, all of this, yes. And wow, we have forest bathing. Now everyone wants to get in on it. Cornell University, look on their website. They have evidence-based benefits of nature. Cornell has partnered with the National Park Service. The National Park Service is even promoting nature heals you. You feel better in body, mind, and spirit. In the bottom where there's a link there, it's not about the link. It's about the NIH, National Institute of Health. How prestigious is that? Has an evidence-based nature prescription on their website. Free medicine, and everyone's getting on board. So as all things spiritual, we can always deepen our relationship and deepen our spirituality as we grow into it. We start in baby steps, whether it's going to the ashram for an evening talk, or then you go for a 3-day intensive, and then you go for a month long. It's like that. So you just let your heart, body, mind, and spirit tell you that. And speaking of deep nature, wow, the Amazon, the greatest expression of life on earth, FMBR is offering an Amazon trip in October. It's online that you can find out about the information session we're having next week, Thursday, 5 p.m. Come in here and listen or get a copy of the tape. Plenty of time for questions and answers that way too. But just simply going there, our activity, we'll talk more about that in the information session, but the point is, wow, deep ecology is a profound spiritual experience. That's the Amazon. Just if you even just sat by the river and didn't do a darn thing, it's just that way. It's big energy. It's big energy. And for this tough lady who was stuck in her mind, it took a long time to peel away all of that good stuff. And I've written other books. Some of you know that, or see me online, and eco healing Zoom classes and all that sort of stuff to keep you enthused, to keep you on track, to deepen your spirituality. And so I just welcome you to the practice of deep ecology as a profound spiritual practice. You do it at your own pace, join others, whatever it is that you need to do to open your heart to tears, to joy, to laughter, to that intimate relationship that is the nature all around us. We could only feel it even more sensitively and deeply. The sun's setting over the Amazon here. It must be time for chat questions, and raise your hand. And Judy, I'm going to turn it over to you. Did you want me to stop the share now, or?
Yeah, let's do that. And if people have
Okay.
they can ask them. I wanted to ask you about, I know you lead trips to the Amazon with like pharmacy students or nurses students who are doing their continuing education or something like that. And I'm wondering how people respond. These are students who are deep in the left brain, like you need to be, right, when you're a student.
Good question. Good question. Good question. So we have these, right? We've got these rational type A pharmacy students, you know, I'm one. All right. And I just got back in March, end of March, with 15 pharmacy students. Also, at the same time, there were 15 adult nurses that belong to the American Holistic Nurses Association. So at least they're a little bit, you know, on the mind-body, you know, relationship. But the Amazon has its own teaching. So to answer your question, on that Amazon trip, we do many rituals. The last one is a Copal fire gratitude circle. So after they've been on the river, morning, noon, and night, in the jungle, you're learning from the guides, learning from ourselves, learning from what's required, reading and just being bathed in nature. At that gratitude, the first 3 pharmacy students, one at a time, that stepped forward to the fire, the Copal, to say what they were grateful for their trip in the Amazon. The first 3 of them, all they could do was cry. They had no words. You know, here's these young kids from Ohio, never been anywhere, and they end up in the Amazon, and it was so incredibly, wonderfully overwhelming. They weren't crying out of fear. That was just awe, just tears of awe. Then, of course, one by one, they gave, you know, individual gratitudes, but it's an experience of what that was like for the pharmacy students. Just more than one can even possibly explain in their young lives, but certainly life-changing. The nurses, the same thing, one by one, and quintessential talk that answers your question. One of the nurses got up for her turn at the Copal fire there. And she said, look, all of us adult holistic nurses, we've been in, you know, in missionary all over the world. We've been in the Peace Corps. She said, I personally have traveled the whole world. You know, I've been everywhere. And I thought, oh, ho hum, the Amazon. She said, all I've got to say is, I am truly awed. I am truly awed. Then, of course, she gave her individual, you know, gratitude statements, but it is just spirit changing, you know.
Absolutely. There's a woman on watching on YouTube, Roberta, who says that she's an art therapist, and she said she's been aware of something she's called #ego angst, eco angst, right? Because of everything that's happening with the planet and everything, and she gives workshops on this core truth, right, that nature heals and that we need to be in right relationship with it, and that it touches more deeply than our physical survival, right?
That's the point. Yes.
Spiritual survival as well.
Yes. Yes, indeed. That's the point.
One of the things, so you talk about, you know, do you ever say, wow, look at that rosemary? I do. Probably a lot of people on this do. You know, my kids think I'm nuts, and because I'm constantly just going, oh, look at that tree, and I speak to them. And one of the things that I think I'm not as good at is this idea of listening, that you talked about in that communication, right? And I actually heard it in my meditation, the word listen. So that's my what I'm working on more. But I love this idea of reciprocity and flow in relationship. It's right. And like that sphere that you showed, it's not top down, right? It just is a beautiful flow. And I think just being aware of that has its own healing healing properties. There was 2 days ago, I think 2 or 3 days ago, there was an article that came out in the Washington Post on the healing nature of birdsong, why birdsong, how it affects our physiology. And I love that this is mainstream, right? It's maybe we're waking up. Maybe.
I've seen several online. I've seen children's cartoons that have an eco message,
Mhm.
or the, the trees that are getting devastated, and then there's the little child savior, the young kid, so it's beginning to be taught on a core developmental level as well. It's not just here, but it's just something you develop. And I love what you said about listening. Some of us in our spiritual practices often expect an answer right away. How come I can't hear? Think of best friends you've been with. Sometimes they don't come up with anything they need to say or tell you other than just enjoying the time together for a long time until there's an issue in their life, or until there's something more deep that they want to share. So it's only us who thinks I'm not spiritual enough unless I'm, hear the God voice or the tree voice or whatever. It may happen that way, but just being open. Yeah, you'll let me know. And, I often say, how about just when you're gardening? How about anybody need anything here? And you know what? I'll continue to do what I'm doing and you let me know sometime if I'm not. In other words, assume that we're not sinning to the beautiful roses and the herbs that we grow in our back, but just simply saying, you'll let me know, won't you? As we say to a friend, anything you need. Is there anything you need today? No, not today, but I'll let you know.
My husband is a gardener, and he raises worms. He keeps worms to make, I guess, because worm castings are really good for the garden. And it was a couple summers ago, I just went to him and I said, I think your worms need water. I think they're drying out. And he said, no, I put some stuff in, but he went out to look, and they did. I never go out there. I'm not I'm not interested. But he said, how did you know? And I flippantly said, oh, they told me. And I was sort of making a joke, but then I thought about it and I thought, how did I know that? How did I know that? They probably told me, right? If you're just listening. I love that idea of being in relationship,
Right. And as a spiritual practice, what the point of all this is, as I said several times, not that this group doesn't know this information anyway, but this is just like a Sunday sermon where you take it a little bit more to heart, and you're just going to be a little bit more, shall we say, open or faithful, if you will, to wanting to make sure it's reciprocal, whatever that is. Make sure that you're conscious enough. You don't have to demand anything,
Right.
But yeah.
I'm wondering about people's practices. Because you're in Arizona, we're in the Silicon Valley. We have there's a lot of nature around us, but my backyard's nice. I'm just wondering where do people get their nature fixes from? I know, Oliver, you're up in Washington, which I think is just fantastic. Just go out your front door and Mount Rainier's there, which always takes my breath away. And so if people want to put in the chat, like, do you go out? Do you make it a point to go out and stand on the ground with your bare feet? That concept of earthing, kind of decharging, and you were talking about the kids and how, a lot of the educational stuff for the kids is really coming through, and the kids are so open. I used to take my kids out to the forest, and I used to tell them to listen to the streams and listen to the like they're talking. And they did. Now that they're grown, they're kind of, it'll come back, but they're in a different space.
It will. That's the whole point.
They're in a very academic space right now.
Any spiritual practice needs to be whatever it is that you do. Of course, it's 24/7, 365. It's not just about Sunday sermon, as we said. It's about taking that with you, and then seeing if you can remember from time to time during the week, or a little bit more than you did last week. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are there any questions? People are being very quiet. Maybe they're just staring at their trees.
And once again, certainly if you've got Mount Rainier or the Amazon or whatever, but it's out everyone's back door, whatever you've got there. Yes, certainly there are times when we have the experience, to go to Sedona or something, but the point is it's there. You'd be surprised, at what healing occurs by just looking out your window. If the weather is inclement, or you can't go outside for whatever reason it is, or the lawn mowing guy is out there and it's too noisy, just look out the window.
Let me ask you about, you currently live in Arizona. So I'm just thinking, when you go to the Amazon, you were just immersed in greenery and water and lushness, and in the Arizona desert is a whole different, story. Do you feel that same connection? Do you speak with the rocks? Do you speak with the cactuses? Do you have that kind of same feeling?
Yeah, well, it's the backstory would be, let me tell a backstory, and then I'll answer your question as it relates to what I'm going to talk about here. Certainly in the Amazon, and where I was from originally, Minnesota. I was born and raised on a Minnesota lake, and the foliage and the greatness of the summers in Minnesota, and the water right next door. And so the Amazon called to me and ended up there. Seemed like a second home to me. And then, I have the opportunity one time many years ago to go to the Andes, to the mountains, right? What will that be like? So relating it to the desert and so forth here, what do you do when there are rocks? And of course, in the Andean tradition, all the rocks are, you look at them and you see if they have faces of people or birds or whatever. In other words, it's the spirit of the rock. Of the mountains, the Andean shamans call the mountains all have different apus, A-P-U, apus, gods, spirits. This mountain might be masculine, this one might be feminine. So there's a whole relational to, and what I'm talking about is there's a tradition of where do they get their power and their energy, from the rocks and so forth. Here in my short stay here so far, what it appears to me to be, or the message for me, is just look out your back door here and you see the backbone of Mother Earth herself, the backbone, just like her spine, the little ripples of the spine. So it's beginning to take on that kind of a view for me. To what extent, I don't know, or if it will deepen or whatever, but the point is, some people are drawn to a certain spiritual practice and not others. Some people are drawn to the Andes, some people to the Amazon. But it probably made more sense now that I look back on it as a pharmacist, that I would end up for 29 years in the Amazon, where medicinal plants come from, even for big pharma. I mean, it kind of makes historical sense. I didn't know it at the time. I took a continuing ed trip thinking I would never be back. But how that happened was the professors that came for this pharmacist continuing ed about the medicinal plants in the rainforest And of course, we had 5 or 6 professors talking about either the medicinal plants or the reptiles or the birds or whatever that was. But I was just smitten by the nature. I could hear those profs back home anytime. It was like that, it's just, oh, 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 oh. And then the second to the last day there, we're eating lunch, there's a group of 90 of us, in the cafeteria there in the jungle lodge. And the group leader said, a shaman is going to be here over lunch for about 5 minutes between the tables, and he's just going to explain a little bit about shamanism. And this was, like I said, 29 years ago, and I'm originally from Minnesota, not California. So I thought, shaman, what is that? How do you spell that? I just didn't know. I was thinking big pharma medicinal plants. So anyway, he got between the rows with his garb and blowing his tobacco smoke and singing his songs. And I said, oh, circus sideshow. Okay, fine, okay. He says, well, if anyone would like a personal blessing, tonight, come to my hut after dinner at 8 o'clock, right down at the end of the path there, come at 8 o'clock. Well, I wanted to get the most bang for my expedition buck, so I was going to the circus sideshow, all right? So I stood in line and was ever so disrespectful and loud and talking to everybody in front and back of me. It's a sideshow. But as I got closer to the hut, I could feel something coming out of the hut, some energy or force. And I said to myself, Connie, you better be quiet and get respectful right now, or that force has so much energy, it's going to come and zap you like a scorpion tail. You better just shut up. So I went in, it was my turn finally, sat on a stump, and there was a translator there. And the shaman starts with his tobacco smoke and the songs and so forth, and kind of going, kill yourself, whatever this is. And then after a few minutes, shaman stopped and said to the translator, tell Connie she's got a block in her neck. She needs to see a doctor as soon as she gets home to the US. We didn't learn about blocks in pharmacy school. I didn't know what he was talking about. I just gave him a tip and dismissed the whole thing. Okay. I get back home to the United States. I'm a month or so later, 6 weeks later, I'm in lunch cafeteria waiting for a girlfriend. I'm at the table first, and she comes through the door. My hand was like this. I turned to see her coming through the door, and suddenly this golf ball sized tumor pops out from the little, you don't see it in the mirror every day, but it just popped out when I turned my head. Little did I know I had thyroid cancer. So fine, Kaiser took care of that. Western medicine, like I said, saved that part of my life, but I knew I had to go back to the Amazon. How can I get back there and learn about what I termed at the time invisible medicine of the spirit? I didn't know a thing about any of this. So soon after I came back from the original Amazon continuing ed trip, I left Kaiser, left pharmacy, and started the Association of Natural Medicine Pharmacists. I was so taken by the power of the energies of the Amazon. I left conventional pharmacy and started becoming an educator about evidence-based, nutrition, homeopathy, herbs and so forth. And one of the professors who had been on the pharmacy continuing ed trip called me because I had this new association now. He was a botanist for the USDA. And he said, I'm retiring now, and I'm going to leave some retirement money to a nonprofit. And that shaman that was there with us in the pharmacy continuing ed is going to make a medicinal plant garden. Do you have any students as your association of natural pharmacists? Do you have any students that want to spend a month with the shaman digging holes and planting herbs? Me, I want to go for a month. So that's what got me back to the Amazon for a month with the same shaman 24/7 to try to figure out what this invisible medicine of the spirit was, or how did he do that? How did he know that? herbs, I understood, medicinal plants, they have active ingredients. They're a lot like, pharmaceuticals. But that's what got me back to the Amazon and how I got back there I didn't know I was going back to apprentice. I didn't. I just give me the answer. How do you know that? There was one friend of mine, a GI doc from Malibu, who came with me to the Amazon once. And we no more than got into the town of Iquitos, and Antonio the shaman meets us there, and he looks the doctor up and down, doesn't know who she is. And he says to her, "You've got a kidney infection. You should see a doctor." She said, "I am a doctor." So as these things were happening, I was just more and more curious about this invisible medicine. I didn't know how to put it, but I kind of entered the world of shamanism, eco healing, whatever you want to call it, through the back door, kind of back, it wasn't my intent, but how was I going to learn about that unless I apprenticed? How are you going to become a doctor unless you, for example, in the United States, unless you're willing to go through 8 or 10 years of medical school? So, how do I do that? And in essence, what I was saying in the talk here today is it was just the peeling away of what I thought I knew, getting the head out of the way so that you can be expanded and right there. Speaking of ecology, it just occurred to me, same topic, turn the page. Do you know that our current Pope some years ago presented to the cardinals that there should be an ecological sin, a sin against ecology? He said, we've got sin against man, you rob somebody or kill somebody or, covet the wife or whatever the commandments are, right? Okay, or community, you poison the water, you do something, burn the hospital down, whatever, community. But the Pope said, we should have ecological sin. I just leave that as a thought, whatever that inspires. Yeah.
I think was it Colombia or somewhere in Brazil that had the rights of nature enshrined in their constitution?
Oh, I love it.
I mean, it's fantastic. Things are changing.
That's the whole point. Things are changing.
Oliver wants to know if your excursions to the Amazon include facilitated ayahuasca experiences.
No, they don't, but come to the talk that we're going to have next week and I'll explain all about that. So that now's not the time to answer Amazon questions, but thank you for that. We'll see you next week.
And Linda wants to know when there's some classes on your website that say to be announced starting times.
Right. So what's been happening is I just got back from the Amazon in March, and I've noticed that all of a sudden we had Mother's Day, Memorial Day, and it was really tough to get people over the summer. Now that COVID's over, everyone's out and traveling and so forth. So it may be more towards fallish before things gel, but get on the newsletter list so that you'll be the first to know. I'm just following the flow of what's happening as people just enjoy their freedom.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, people on YouTube are saying thank you for this. Magical and transformational. Yeah, so if there's no more questions, I am going to say thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Connie, for your wisdom and your facilitating that connection, that and reminding us to get out there and to listen.
My pleasure.
Thank you, everyone. Have a really wonderful evening. See you next time.